Peace, everyone. This is Brother Shemel with Masterminds with Brother Shemel, and I have a special guest with me. This brother, for those of you, everyone out there who may have been checking in on my broadcast, we have had some dialogue on the Instagram, and you may see the videos on the channel as well. This brother I've known for some time. Um, this brother is a wealth of knowledge. So for everyone who's going to check this, you're definitely going to need to take notes because we're about to dive deep. And I can definitely say that this brother is a humble brother. Um, and we're kind of like spirit in that manner, which is why we work so well together. This man is the co-founder of MIMEC, which stands for Melanated Immortals, making evolutionary changes. And he also teaches on something called the Holomind Perceiver. And we're going to touch on that. But the title of this is called 7 Dimensions of Cosmic Memory and Consciousness. So I know you're in for a treat. So I'd like to introduce to you all none other than my brother, Neb Hawker.
Greetings. Am I being heard clearly?
Yes.
All right. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So just to get started, as I always like to do, I like to ask those who come on the platform to kind of give a brief backstory as to how they came across this path. Because of course we know this is not common, for many of us to walk this path.
Right.
So I'm always interested in what are the things that inspired you to do what you do. So if you could just share with the audience that.
Yeah, Brother Shem, for years, for 20 plus, I say even 30 years now, I've been on that path of personal growth and development. Is kind of what I've seen first, and then, I got into, some metaphysics and, got hot and heavy in business in some different areas. And then, but, something was always missing, so I was always searching. I was appreciative of what I had, but I was like, well, there's something that's not quite adding up. And so probably about 8 years ago, I started tapping into consciousness, Pan-Africanism, etc. And I really, what kept me going is I started a brain balancing program with Dr. Jewel Pookrum. And this was back in 2015. So I was really open. Sometimes when we've done a lot of different things, we just become open because we're trying to find out, okay, what is that piece that can kind of bring everything together? And I tell you, that kind of was an accelerator because that's when I was first introduced to these 7 circuits of consciousness and cosmic memory, and everything just came rushing into my mind. And what keeps me going is as I go deeper into the cosmology and just what my perception is as I seem to be expanding and evolving my consciousness, I really am looking out for people who were like me. They had done a lot of different things and still, couldn't put the pieces together. And in terms of how totality works, we can see how these little compartments work, when we have our job and our work life, and we have our family life, and then we have our recreational life. But outside of all of that, there's purpose. And inside of all of that is purpose. Now, how does that fit in? And so me being able to continue to interweave and woven this energy and information through purpose. The purpose kept on, come on, it's got to be a greater purpose for you to do this. And it has continued to show that to me time and time again. So, I'm elated. And now it's not about me. It's really about shifting the consciousness of the evolved beings on the planet to move into a state of planetary consciousness where we now are putting the planet first in terms of, how we are operating. We're operating as the planet, not just on the planet. So that's a different state of consciousness that will need access to different kind of abilities as well. So that's what does it, brother. And I think that what really keeps me going is when I see other people like yourself, they're so polished and know what they're doing. And I see other people that are up and coming trying to get to that point. And they're like, oh, they're just like a kid in a candy store with this new information and they're rolling it. So I definitely enjoy being a support mechanism for them.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful, brother.
Yeah.
And definitely. And I know that speaks to the work you're doing with MIMEC. And I want to get into that. But before I do that, you touched on something real quick. I want to just glance over it. You
don't miss nothing,
came across Dr. Jewel Pookrum.
Yes.
Now, for those who don't know, Dr. Jewel Pookrum is a very established, well-knowledgeable teacher on the brain. And you, of course, I know that this has led you to teach on the Holomind Perceiver in your studies, being from a student to a teacher. And I know we are forever the student.
Yes.
And I want to know, how did you first come across Dr. Jewel Pookrum? Was it a video? Was it somebody told you? Did you bump in the store? How did that happen?
Well, I tell you, I ran across one of her videos on YouTube. And no, that's not true. Actually, it's a brother out of Cleveland, Ohio. He probably don't even remember. He sent me something on Dr. Jewel Pookrum, and she was talking about 7 circuits of the brain.
Yes.
And when I heard her and her delivery, I said, man, I need to meet that sister is powerful. Yeah. And it'd be nice to meet her one day. So about a year later, or less than a year, I actually end up meeting and working very closely with Dr. Jewel for almost 2 years. But I tell you, and being able to actually come into that process. So I joined a meditation group. That was a meditation group on the law of time. And Dr. Jewel Pookrum was in the meditation group. So that was one of the things that made me say, maybe I'll get to meet her if I get in this meditation group. But really, I was really interested. It was a meditation on the law of time and stuff we teach now. So it was kind of my first introduction to it. And it made such an impression on me. The scholars that were in that group were very seasoned. They were very polished. And so therefore, as a result, I could definitely see me being able to evolve from those concepts. And so that's how I end up meeting. And then a couple months later, after, it wasn't even a couple of months, and shortly after that, the group that I was in, they were now going to move to doing some things, but it was just for balanced brain people. And so that made me think, okay, if I want to continue with the group, I need to join the balancing program. And I was impressed with the people that I saw. So I said, okay, this is something that I need to do. It makes sense. And so once I got on the brain balancing program, then I just kind of flourished, because I, everything, Brother Shem, we take it serious and focus and do what's necessary to be disciplined to do it. And I did all of that. Plus, I was doing a few other things at the same time. I was studying this law of time and the Holomind Perceiver, the mind of totality, if you want to, if you're not familiar with the Holomind Perceiver, it's the whole mind. And I was doing some sun gazing. I was fasting at the same time. So I was doing a number of things at the same time. And I really, honestly, I just quantum leaped. What's interesting about it is within 2 months of me doing all those things together, I was actually teaching a very difficult subject that very few people know. And, and so I didn't even know at the beginning. I just was so eager to learn. And they say the best way to learn is to teach. So, it was a lot of work. It was definitely a lot of work, but it really has paid off in a major way. So that's how I got introduced to her and the brain balance program and all that kind of stuff, brother. Yes, sir.
Yes, I see it. It definitely has paid off, because you were definitely a sharp. You just sharp, brother. I want to, make me want to segue into the Holomind Perceiver.
Okay.
And I want to just ask you, because you do teach classes on this, and it's very extensive. If you, for those who are hearing about this for the first time here, for you to just explain it briefly,
Yes.
what exactly is the Holomind Perceiver?
If I may, I'd like to explain the different dimensions, and these different dimensions, I would like to explain it as the third dimensional concepts, fourth dimensional concepts, and fifth dimensional concepts.
Mm-hmm.
Usually when I just explain it, there's a gap, right? So I'll fill the gap, and it may be easier to understand or to seeing themselves being able to do it. All right. So the third dimension, is really about space. So it's a perspective of space, the material plane. Everything is measured, density and all these kind of things. So a lot of our science and mathematics have been taught from the perspective of space, not including this next dimension that I'm talking. And to navigate space, the tool that we use is the 13 moon calendar. We think it's very important to follow cosmic cycles when we are tapping into cosmic memory. However, when we're just operating on a portion of our brain, and that's a portion of the logic and reasoning part of the brain, then we don't need that cosmic stuff. And we kind of just run on programs, different things in our reality. But what happens is eventually there's something pulling at us until there's another dimension. So let's just say that the physical body is the catalyst of space for us, right? This is the instrument used to receive and send information throughout the universe. Then we have the fourth dimension. The fourth dimension is the spirit, right? Fourth dimension is the etheric body or the etheric realm. And so now we're talking about nature, how nature works. Nature works, from what I understand, through the power of synchronicity. So things just happen in nature, right? And so they call it the synchronic order. So when things are put into a certain order, then certain phenomena take place. So that's been observed and tested many times over through mathematics and other tests. So that's the nature part that's working all around us. So we can see nature, we can see the trees, we can see the birds and all that. So now we get to that level, we want to know how all that works, right? Then there's the fifth dimension. The fifth dimension, I would say, is the electronic and the light body, all right, that connects to the totality of mind, consciousness, right? And so this is where our real true, the fulfillment of our cosmic memory comes in. And why is that important? Because like I've been saying, I've been beating this down for the whole last couple of weeks. And that is, it is said that we have over 100 million years of knowledge stored in our cerebellum. Now, how significant is that? I mean, Brother Shem, it was just until recently I began to fathom that, wait a minute, what kind of purpose would a being have to have 100 million years of knowledge stored in one's brain? Now, just think about the behavior on this planet and how many of those years are we really probably using? We're probably just using a smidgen. Right. But what if we was using more? So this fifth dimension taps us into that the soul memories and really the totality of mind, because the mind and the brain are different. The mind is the brain is the processor. It's like the hardware that processes information, right? And the mind is all these dimensions, all these software programs. So a good way to kind of look at it, since many of us have smartphones, is to be able to look at the phone and say, okay, as the phone, it processes numbers and EIN, all this kind of stuff, right? Different connections. And then there's all these apps.
Right.
There's millions of apps. We probably use about 10 to 20 of them, but there's millions of apps, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of, a similar look at the artificial mind and artificial intelligence, how it works. But I said it like that because the Holomind Perceiver, now we're looking at what's happening in the fifth dimension. We call this energy, right? Then what's happening in the spirit moves the mind into a different direction or disposition. And then we have the 3D, localized in space. And this is the will, the spirit, and the mind, or the electronic light body, all come together and create a perfect triad. Now, why is that important for what I'm explaining? Well, once you become aware of that, and your intention is to balance, or they're equal, it's an equilateral triangle, so they work in tandem. When that works, we can manifest that will. We got the body, we got the spirit, we got the mind. Okay. The Holomind Perceiver is a telepathically imprinted nanochip. We call this a chip, but it's really something there. It's our pineal gland is there. Mm-hmm. But in the middle of the brain, there's something we call the corpus callosum, right? And it is said that when what joins the two, that's the corpus callosum, is very instrumental in the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere being able to communicate with each other, brain parts, right?
Right.
And so with that, there's plasma, which is semi-liquid electricity, correct? Is that what it is? Plasma? Yeah. And this plasma is not just in the brain, but it's in the cerebral spinal fluid, it's in the blood. And so what is it communicating with? Well, we know in outer space, we also can say that consciousness is plasma as well. So now this, through thought, right? Through the imaginal realm, through telepathically imprinting and allowing these codes to come into that plasma, all right, creates a new or evolved technology to access this totality of mind. And so now what's happening is it projects an overlay on the brain, so we know which parts of the brain is accessing what's different parts of the cosmos. And we're going to talk about a little bit about that today, the 7 circuits, the 7 thinking layers of the cosmos, right? Cosmic memory. And so this now nanochip is causing us to perceive our experience from totality, not from just the localized physical human.
Right.
So the beauty of that is this, is that now we begin to see that we're just different. It's like a kaleidoscope. We see different versions of ourselves. So the cell in our body is just a different version of us. For the cell to say it's not a part of the body is a misaligned cell, which turns malignant and cancerous, right?
Yes.
So the cell is part of the circulatory system. The circulatory system is just another version of the cell. The body is just another version of the circulatory system. It's set up of several systems.
Yes.
Right? The body's part of the biosphere of the earth. Right? So the earth and the biosphere is another version of the self. Right? Then the solar system, right? The earth's in the solar system. So now the earth is part of the solar system. The solar system is just another part of the earth. Yes. The earth is just another part of the solar system, and so on and so on. So these are just different versions of ourselves. And when we can perceive ourselves from any one of those macro or microcosmic levels, we can tap into not only our cosmic memory circuits, but some of our supramental and paranormal powers that's been lying dormant because we're only using a small portion of those 100 million years. Did that make sense, brother? Did I explain that clearly for our audience?
I believe you did. I believe you did. If not, they can ask questions, but I definitely believe that you hit it right on the head. And you what you said had me, well, it opened up my thoughts to a couple of things, and I don't want to take it too far off a tangent, so please steer me back. Okay. But one of the last programs I had on my YouTube channel, we were having a conversation about the multiverse. Okay. So my I guess it's going to be twofold or whatever. But first, my part is how does the Holomind Perceiver relate to the multiverse? Is that even a thing? And if so, how, for someone who would have this conversation, because there's a lot of talk about it, and that's why I'm even mentioning it. There's been recent talks about it.
Yes. Well, the Holomind Perceiver, as you can see, if we can start with a cell, and we can be a part of the Earth, which has many bodies on it. We can be a part of a cosmos that has many universes in it. It's called multidimensionality. So this is an introduction. People are evolving and people are tapping into becoming a multidimensional being. Now, I didn't say a multidimensional doer. That's just a multitasker. I'm talking about you can be a multidimensional being because you can operate from more than one state of consciousness at one time. Now, what I like about the multiverse and relating that, because we got to always come back to the mind. How does the mind work? How does consciousness work? And how do we tap into that as humans, right? To be able to what? Receive information and knowledge, right? Because until we realize that, hey, there's something going on in the earth as to why we incarnated at this time, we as etheric beings, there's something going on the earth, and the reason why we incarnated, or we just do it by happenstance. Like today's Saturday, and there's nothing else. It's Saturday, and we off. We're off today. Okay, we don't got to go to work. Okay, now, so I went through all that, becoming from the invisible to the visible, to just be off. So it's something else, and so those are who are truth seekers will be able to see that. So it's a lot of relation, in my opinion, and relates to multidimensionality. Now, anytime I hear about the multiverse or any type of advanced science or spirituality, I like to talk about the absolute realm. And in the absolute, okay, it is said that everything's already happened. So this is what gets us to focus on now. Now is the only time that it is present, being present. Okay, so if that's true, if everything has already happened, now it's just going to determine what our focus is, right? Everything has already happened and keeps happening and evolves in the process. So the question is, as we as we tap into our awareness, some of us, there's a certain point that we could only tap into a universe, one verse.
Right.
Now our consciousness is evolving, and we're able to say, wait a minute. Hey, there's multiple universes here that we can tap into. So consciousness is what I want to say. According to the different states of consciousness, there's a truth relative to that consciousness. And some things that may be true for some, I would label them higher states of consciousness, may seem is the key word, to be untrue to someone operating at a lower level of consciousness, because the focus is different, so there's all these alternate realities going on, and we're just in one of them right now. And so the more we expand our mind and we tap into this cosmic memory, we can see all of this going on at one time, and now it just becomes, what is the locus of our focus?
Locus of our focus. I love it. And Brother Donald Lee says, very interesting, very. It is, absolutely. Shout out to you, brother.
Yes, indeed, Brother Donald. Thank you.
When you speak about the aspect of the multi-dimensions, talk about the focus, I guess my question would be, is it possible for us to, and you may have already answered this question, is it possible for us to have a multi-focus, or in other words, almost like having a holistic vision of these dimensions where we can see them simultaneously, or does it only work when using a Holomind Perceiver from a standpoint of you have to see one dimension at a time? If I'm making any sense.
No, it's a blend. Again, your consciousness will determine that answer. And so, and we're operating at different states of consciousness. So at one person's consciousness, they may say, no, you can't do it. You know, it hadn't been tested or this, that, and the other. And there's someone else that says, no, you can do it from what I've seen. But they may have gone further into their consciousness in order to do so. So my answer is, yeah, you can see it all happening at one time. Often I see a whole lot going on at one time. Kind of like a monitor. You have to see, you know, if your security monitor and you see all these different things, you know, sometimes when I go into that etheric realm, you know, I'm seeing all kind of geometry, sacred geometry with sunspots. I'm seeing sacred geometry from different patterns of the planet, the different planets in the orbits. You know, I'm saying different stars, and I see different geometry show up. So my consciousness, you know, my brain is giving me access to this consciousness, and it's showing me, it's leading me onto this journey of remembrance, that I'm remembering that I'm that. That's what I'm remembering, that I came from the stars, that I'm moving into this consciousness that's giving me a deeper insight on what's going on into these other areas. So, you know, this is, you know, there's a lot of people that are dealing the paranormal, but they don't say anything, because, you know, what happens when you say something, somebody that loves you says you're crazy, and they take you to the 6th ward and dope you up and that kind of thing. So you see, you know, something completely different happens. So we got to be careful. But what we've said is that, you know, MIMEC, Melanated Immortals Making Evolutionary Changes, is a safe place to evolve, where we can really talk about these things and really open up Pandora's box, so to speak, and be able to really bring a degree of stability of mind through emotional intelligence. So we don't, a lot of times we don't have the balance, and we don't understand the true essence of polarity and equalization. And so when we talk about equalizing, where something comes to make something unequal, there's something in the field of consciousness to balance it. So there's always a solution that offsets, equals, or exceeds what was brought into consciousness. And it's up to us. Sometimes we've been shown just to shut off our brain and look at what came in that's made it unequal for us or difficult for us. But if we don't shut down and we say, hey, wait a minute, you know, I know however you pronounce that guy's name that was with Brother Shem, you know, he was talking about there's another equalizing force that's to come. So a lot of times we block it. Our ego blocks it, and we want to come in and fix it. And we just sit back and say, okay, I'm going to allow the equalization to inform me on what I need to do as a result of what's going on. And that's how it happens for those that have the power, that's keyword power, to allow.
Yes.
You know, so yes, to answer your question, I see us being able to see many dimensions at one time, you know, and that's an advanced paradigm for us. But listen, we talk about something in the Holomind Perceiver called the infinite mind wave. So that means there's infinite amount of possibilities. That means everything is possible, and those possibilities are evolving as we speak. So we just have to be willing to tap in to that knowledge stream to make it and bring it into the world of probability.
Right. Absolutely. And Joshelle says, Ashe.
Hey, Ashe.
You know? And Monel Bay says, man traces himself back and thus he knows. Very true. Definitely, like you said, that cosmic memory is very important. Absolutely. I want to speak about Melanated Immortals.
Okay.
Because you did touch on it when you was answering the last question. And that is the website, everyone, for those who need to check it out. Definitely go and check that out. First, I want to give honors, shout out to High Priestess Ma'at, Baba Wanik Shabazz. Of course, they, along with you, put this together. What was it that the three of you saw that inspired you and say there's a need for us to create MIMEC?
You know, a lot of it has to deal with the growth we've had on our paths, and we all came together and was really able to gel while we were brain balancing, while we were working with sacred geometry with Dr. Jewel. And so, you know, we really were pushed by Dr. Jewel. She's very powerful in terms of her research and what she knows herself as a master teacher and beyond. And so in that process, we probably I had never evolved like this during this period. Like there was a period that I was with Dr. Jewel and I quantum leap after quantum leap after quantum leap. I was like, whoa. And what had happened is I just opened my mind and heart to it. And I said, I'm not gonna stop it. And so it's whoosh. I mean, the people that know me before that, they look at me and like, what happened? You know, and I again, I was, you know, always in the growth and development, spirituality, but you know, not like this. So, you know, when we came together, we said, you know what? If there was a way that we could create a platform for us, for people to evolve fast like that, like we did, that would be something that would be great, because that's what a lot of people are seeking. They're getting the knowledge, but let me tell you the trouble that most people are having. And there's plenty of people that are out there that are more that may be intellectually more advanced than I am. And so I think that's very true. But let me tell you something about this. With that being said, what we lack is not the knowledge, it's the integration.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we some of us have heard of this knowledge triangle, you know, where we get knowledge, we take action, and we get knowledge drives action, knowledge drives behavior, behavior drives results.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But sometimes we get into the mind so strong and we get so fascinated with the mind, we just keep getting more knowledge to get more knowledge, to get more knowledge, to get more knowledge, to get more knowledge and more knowledge. And we don't get to integrate it into our day-to-day, you know, and we find out these things that we stay in the mind. And so what I think is very important is that when we get into the mind, that we again bring that knowledge all the way through the root of the root to the galactic core of the earth and bring it down in the earth, not to the earth and not on the earth, bring it down in the earth. Right. And build that relationship with the earth. Because now the earth is the consciousness that will help us, if we're plugged in, will help us integrate what's outer space into space, because the earth is doing it.
Right.
So this is key, because when we're looking at this, the problem that people I see have is that they're able to talk about it, debate about it, and do all these things, right. and to be able to integrate it and put it in real life, real world situations where you know that happened from that. And so those are where all the practices come in. Yes. So long story short, when we went through our practices and our knowledge and we felt very advanced at that time. Now that pales in comparison to where we are now, in my opinion. Yeah. And I've had a chance to observe a high priestess, my aunt, 6 years ago, and now it's obliterated. I mean, it's not even close where she is. But when we started MIMEC, we had came so far from that vantage point. We looked at it and said, man, I never grew like this. I never evolved like this. So we just wanted to create a safe place where other people can do what we did. And that's kind of how it sparked off. And we thought that what we were teaching and how we were teaching the integration of it would be an accelerator for people. So that's why we did it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what you say is, you know, application, that integration and application is key. It really is. Because like you said, there are many of us in what we call the conscious community who are very intellectual. They have a lot of knowledge, but it becomes just, it stays there. And so the only thing they can do is either debate, which is a lot of that, or or pontificate, and like you said, what you're doing is great, taking it to that next level of application. And womb evolution, I know we know who that is. Greetings. So that's Priestess Ma'at. Hey, greetings.
Who's in the house?
She's in the house, no doubt. And Brother Monel Bay said, peace and goodwill to all, and honors to the speakers for putting this together so we can build and grow. Gratitude, family. Gratitude.
Monel Bay, we appreciate you, brother.
Absolutely. And so with that, I want to ask you, for those not only who are interested in MIMEC, but also just in general, who are interested in taking it to the next step. Because you mentioned about that, how you and the co-founders were able to grow exponentially with this information and continue to do so. Yeah. Someone may say, well, I see what y'all doing. Y'all so deep. We
hear that.
Yeah. How do I get like that? So what would you say to that person who's yearning to get to that level, but they dealing with life, and life happens, and
right.
They haven't really been, I would say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, really been conditioned, or they haven't conditioned themselves to put themselves in a path where they can receive that knowledge exponentially and that understanding, that overstanding. What would you say to that?
I would say, what if I could show you how to start where you are? Let's see, to me, it's not where you are, it's the direction you're headed. See, so that means anybody, a 5-year-old, we're about to start a children's program. Wow. And the children are so advanced, they just pick it up real quick. I love telling this story. They were asking a 5-year-old, and they asked adults. They said, how do you put an elephant in a refrigerator? And so the adults were like, well, you got to break his legs. You got to cut it up into little pieces and stuff it in, put it in bags and stuff it in there. And they came up with all these crafty ways, to do it. Got to put it in a blender, all this kind of stuff. And the little 5-year-old said, well, you just need a refrigerator about the size of that garage. I think we could just walk in there. So it's a paradox. I mean, it's really simple, but what we don't realize is how complex the programs that we're running are on us.
Yes.
We're running on some serious programs. And when I say that, even our personality is a program. We call it the circumstantial persona, where the circumstances change. They train you how to have a personality.
Wow.
Your ego will fight for it. That's me.
Yeah.
That's just my personality. That's how I am. Take it or leave it. Not a personality. That's something that's been infused into you because of your experiences. And your mind has tried to outsmart those experiences and put something in order so we don't hurt ourselves or get hurt or hurt anybody if we don't want to. So it's a big deal. So to somebody who is saying, man, this is really deep. Okay, well, let's go more to the shallow side of it and take you in through a process. So you might not be able to dive in. It's real simple. Some people make it overcomplicated. We hear that a lot of times. This is really deep, and that means, I love deep. I want to be able to say deep because I'm about to evolve.
Right.
You ain't gonna do much in shallow water now. You got what they used to say, you got to launch out into the deep. So I can tell you that we are able to really look at people and see where they are. We've been really working on this outreach program to be able to really figure out what state and level of consciousness is one operating right then, and put together the right thing, the right path for where they are right then. They may not be where I am, or they may be farther than I am, but it's important for us to know that and to be able to communicate that so everybody can get what they need where they are in the process.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. Absolutely. Uh, okay, High Priest Man says, "Come on, brother Shem, you're being humble. I'm still trying to get with the depth of your book. Gratitude. I appreciate it. Gratitude. That's a compliment.
She ain't by herself.
That is a compliment. I thank you. And we also have Sister Joshelle saying, MIMEC is definitely a safe space that accepts you at the level of consciousness you are at and allows you to grow to higher and higher levels. And for that, we will forever be of gratitude. Give thanks. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to kind of dive into the topic. You really spoke on the whole title, which is the 7 dimensions of cosmic memory and consciousness. But if we were just to do like, and you mentioned on the dimensions of I'm sorry, 3rd dimension, 4th dimension, 5th dimension.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it says 7, brother. So what's the 6 and the 7?
Well, I tell you, when we're talking about the cosmos, right, and we are in the cosmos, many people hear me talking about we're living in our mind. Mm-hmm. Some people say, you're out of your mind.
Right.
You know, I'm living in my mind. So everything that's in my mind is working with my degree of consciousness. And so everything's aligning with my focus. And it's like my consciousness is here and everything is arranging itself to verify it's there. The planets, everything. Like it's like everything is aligning itself. So when we talk about the dimensions, we talked about the spirit, the body temple. We're talking about the physical body, the spirit, and the mind. Now, when we get to that mind part, it's broken down into 7 thinking layers of cosmic memory, is how I would speak about it. And these 3 dimensions are subsumed in those 7. Okay. So when we talk about it, here's the levels. The first level is pre-consciousness. This is where cosmic creation takes place. Now, how can we translate that into me and you? Well, this is premeditated thought, right? Before you apply the focus, right? And then you go create after you get everything that you premeditated with in order to create, right? It's cosmic creation. It's no different than us going and painting a picture, you know. But to get into the premeditated state, we got to go get some paint brushes. We got to go get some paint, right? We got to get the right colors, right? The right materials to do it in the right environment so we can concentrate and do it to the highest level. Pre-consciousness. The next layer number 2, is the sub and the unconscious. Now, here's where all the programs are. And the autonomic system, right? This is what beats our heart. None of us are running around saying, hey, hold on a second, man. You guys are deep. I like it. I appreciate this knowledge, but I got to go beat my heart for about 5 minutes. I'll be right back. Nobody does that because it's part of the autonomic system, right? So the sub and unconscious. Now, the subconscious operates a lot different than the preconscious or the waking consciousness, which is the next one. So I'm gonna come back and tell you little clues about each one so you understand. So in the sub and unconscious, this is where the power of synchronicity works with our energy. Okay, we call it cosmic synchronicity, but really it's where everything is working on our behalf energetically. So we need to know how that works, because once that starts working, sometimes it's hard to go against the subconscious. You got to know how it works. So a lot of times it's our conscious that also is what I would call a blockage for subconscious development and materialization, because we so smart, we know how it won't work. So we'll smart ourselves out of $1 million of the resources that we need to build a village or to do this or to do that. We'll smart ourselves out of $1 million to or out of the right relationships,
Right.
We'll smart ourselves out of good health. We'll be vegans and eating good, and then still come up with something because of the stress that we're under. So we have to understand that when we plant a seed in the subconscious mind, it's gonna take root. It just matters. What matters is how we feel about it in our heart.
Yes.
That's going to be a major thing. And so you'll often hear me talk about to change your mind in its totality and how it thinks. You're going to have to have a change of heart. A lot of people holding on to stuff from the past that they can't let go of. So then we move in from sub and unconscious to the third level or layer, and that's the waking conscious mediumship. Now, I use those words carefully because waking conscious means we're woke. This is the medium that we're speaking. This is how we're communicating right now in this awakened state, right? Yes. However, the medium that gives us elasticity into other places and things, and it introduces the ideal of extrasensory perception and telepathy is the medium is spirit. The spirit is what gives the mind elasticity.
Yes.
But it's localized right here in the body. And when we're awake, we can communicate with each other, etc. But it's this medium there to use as needed. Keep that in mind, right? And so, that's where we move into a state because of that medium that we can access all the possibilities in the universe. It's the medium that gives us access to it. But many of us block it. We don't know how that works. We hadn't heard of something like that way. We may even talk about it, but we don't know the science behind how it works. And then the fourth level, we call this continuing consciousness. Now we continue our consciousness through concentration and focus. So this is the level of yoga and meditation. And when we can localize the focus, the locus of the focus, right? We now can get the mind and the brain into a state where it can move into a state of time travel. Okay. Now to do that, now and some people, well, what is time travel? Really, there's really a lot that we can do in terms of memory. We can go back to the past and through something called retrocognition, right? We talk about some of that in the Holomind Perceiver class, and go back in our mind and put back through cosmic memory what happened. We can literally go back to that time and say, okay, what really happened here? That takes practice, just like remote viewing takes practice. But if you practice it enough, you get better at it, just like anything else, right? Yeah. So focus is all about continuing our consciousness, and that moves us into what we call cosmic ascension. Now we start getting into these higher levels of mind. The fifth layer is what we call God consciousness, right? We call that the fifth mental sphere, right? We call it super conscious and God conscious means that we're really able to receive a lot of communication outside the body, outside of this dimension, maybe even outside the earth. We have people sometimes that say, hey, they communicate with people, from Syrians, all kind of different stuff. Right. And I know that can be true. Now, if we were to tell somebody that on the street, they'd be like, 911. We got it. So somebody's an alien. They talk about it, but really, it's whether they're conscious of it or not. The super consciousness puts us in a state where we're able to really go beyond the planet and into these other dimensions, and we now can receive telepathic transmissions from higher dimensions, right? So that's pretty powerful because that really solidifies ourselves in terms of where our mind is. And then we go to subliminal consciousness. Now this is deep. The subliminal consciousness is how the paranormal sphere. And this is where we're able to communicate with entities beyond this plane of existence. Now I say communicate, the superconscious, we can receive the information. receiving downloads.
Right.
The sixth dimension is where we actually communicate back and forth.
Got it.
Hi, my name is Neb Tabarka. Hey, I'm so and so from Sirius. Just kidding. But this is where we communicate with the ancestors, and we're able to. It's a communication. It's an exchange.
Right.
You know, subliminal consciousness is below the threshold. So this is not something you're going to be able to try like you're lifting something to do. It's an allowance.
Yes.
See? It's a continuum of energy that's flowing, and we're tapped in. And because we're tapped in, we're able to not only receive, but we're able to give or transmit messages back to the other side, so to speak. And then there's the seventh layer, which gives us access to totality. So this is kind of a stair step. And then as we get to the center of what moves everything in consciousness, now we have in our mind reached the source. So we've remembered where the source is, and we are in that source, and then we realize that we are a mere reflection of that source. We are a microcosm of that source. So and we are connected to that source. Now, let me ask you something. If we are a microcosm of it and we are connected to it, aren't we it to a degree?
Absolutely.
If there's a branch on a tree, we can call it a branch, but it's also connected to the tree. So when somebody's looking at the totality of the tree, they say, hey, that's the tree, and the branch and the tree are not separate. So when we realize this, now we know thyself from the mind of totality. Right. Now imagine, if you can, for those who are listening, what kind of things you would see in your reality with the totality of mind operating in your brain through this plasma, in which plasma is the communication medium. If you really do due diligence and see, not only in the body but outside of the body. You see? So why do we teach that? Well, here's why I teach it. Here's why I wanted to learn it, and I'm still learning and teaching, and I'm learning how to remember to teach it, right? Is because scientists say we only use 10% of our brain capacity, our brain power consciously. Now, there's all these controlling agents that's controlling our mind. I don't know if anybody out there is as feverishly working to access the other 90% like I am. But that's why I teach it. I'm here with 10% complaining about stuff. But would I have the same complaints if I was operating with 20%? I don't think I would. 30, 40, 50, 60, 70%, 80%, 90%, and 100%. If it's possible and we have access to it, why wouldn't we tap into it? Ashe?
Ashe.
This is what we're talking about. That's why, Brother Shem, you know, what relevancy does it have? Well, the same relevancy it has to fight against police brutality, domestic violence, colonialism. If I'm only operating with 1/10, then I got to be subject to the rules of that program. But if it's something I'm operating outside of that program, like this 90% I'm talking about, I don't want to fight a artificial system that has control of many of the inhabitants of the earth with 10% of my brain power. I don't want to fight artificial with artificial.
Right.
What I want to do is fight artificial with absolute intelligence. You see? And so that makes the AI subservient to the absolute. So now I am goes to a whole nother level. If I am and come into being and come into consciousness as the absolute intelligence or a version that's much greater than 10% of my state of being on this planet. I want somebody to tell me what we can't do, especially if it's a number of us operating on that same frequency and wavelength.
Indeed. Absolutely. Yeah. Monica Renee says Ashe. Absolutely.
Monica, absolutely.
Absolutely.
So that's what we're tapping on, Brother Shem. That's what we're tapping on. So we're not here to play around. If it's available to us, and listen, I don't just think it. See, I used to think it was available to us when I started. I said, let me see how it works. let me do it first, and then let me see, and then I'll tell people. Well, I'm beyond that stage. So now I know that it's available to us. Do I have it completely mastered, this totality of mind? Am I operating? I know somebody got the question. Am I operating with 100%? How do you know what percent? I don't know, but I know I'm operating with more than 10%. People that's operating with 10%, even in science, don't necessarily talk like this.
Right. Facts.
We talk from a limited perspective based on the spacesuits that we got on and what our experiences told us to research. Now, what if we have tapped into something else, another medium that said there's something outside of this that we're missing? And that's what's happened here. That's what I'm interested. That's now, Brother Shem, that's what gives meaning to Neb Taharka in my experience on the planet. Everything else is just mundane and okay, all right, I'm gonna go on another vacation. Okay, I'm gonna help. We know we got problems on the planet as melanated people. Okay, I know. They've been here, right?
Right.
There's been several revolutions before I came, and what MIMEC said is that, well, let's try having an evolution. And let everybody revolve around that. So that's going to take some work. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I can tell you in 6 years, I'm not available for a lot of the shenanigans. All right. That's being dealt with on the planet and in society. I'm not available. And here's something else. When you really realize and know your galactic purpose for this planetary service, and that's a whole nother paradigm. Think about it. Galactic purpose, which means I didn't come from the clay or the dirt. I came from the stars. And so what were the stars talking about with me before I found 23 chromosomes from the divine feminine and 23 chromosomes from the divine masculine and said, aha, though that's the channel I'm coming through. That's where I'm going to make my contract. And start making contractions so that I can do whatever I talked with them stars about, them star elders about, when I was invisible coming into the visible. Now, that's a whole nother paradigm. Wow, you actually think that? Yes, I do, because it's the only thing that brings a deeper meaning. Because now, I tell you this, if this is great, because if this was the only planet with life on it, now I must ask, do you really think this is the only planet in the cosmos with life on it? I got to ask that question. I'm asking the audience, brother. I'm asking.
I'm waiting for the answer. I'm waiting for them to answer.
Well, here's the reason why I'm asking. Because if you think that this is the only planet with life on it, then let me tell you something. And it's 100. No. It's more than 1 trillion galaxies. And this is the only galaxy that has life in it out of all them children. All them children are operating on energy and consciousness too. But this is the only one. If you think this is the only one, then what I'm going to say to you ain't going to make any sense to you. Right. You're not going to be able to believe what I'm telling you. Right? But that's how we operate, Gene. That's how we operate on this planet a lot of the times in society. Like, this is the only planet, and this is how everything works. This is the only this is the only planet God is working with. And I beg to differ. I've seen something else. So now, if you say you believe in this multiverse stuff, like Brother Shem is talking about, and you say, it's possible that it could be some life in some other galaxies. Now, what I'm gonna start saying to you might make some sense, because the only way you're gonna know is you're gonna have to explore through your mind these other areas. And how you know is that you start communicating with your mind, with different states of consciousness that's not around you in the physical body. And this is how we get a notion of it, right? But this is like a container. Otherwise, we're contained here, and there's even a theory that this is a quarantine zone, the Earth. It's a quarantine zone. So that means that something needs to be contained. Maybe we were sent here to correct what needs to be contained. Maybe that's what our mission is, to find out. So that's why these 7 different circuits and dimensions of cosmic memory is important, because when we remember the cosmos and where our, soul memories are, and we now come right here to the present, guess what? Now we're going to see things from that whole perspective versus our limited knowledge that we are learning for people that's spoon feeding us artificial knowledge. For the most part, it's up to us to find out the other stuff.
Absolutely. Who's that? Sister Jean Royce the Hill says, speaking science of truth. Absolutely. Let me see who we got else. Brother Anthony Culberson says, peace, God's peace. Peace to my brother out there in Fayetteville. And of course, we got Kinky Curly Straight Talk. That's my wife, Inez. Mental power is the most powerful essence. I got to give a shout out to her, because it was her who actually made me aware of you, so I got to give honors where honors is due. I say. Brother, right. You really brought it through. And one of the things I learned about what you were speaking on is the fact that at some point in time, when you were speaking on the 7 dimensions, I was able to do a correspondence in my mind with some teachings that I studied in Sufism about the 7 planes of the 7 heavens, because you said the last one was being union with the source. And that's very much taught in Sufism with the Sufi masters and things of that nature. So it lets me know that this is not a new science. It's actually an ancient science that our ancestors have been using in some form of another. The language may change, the terms may change, but the concepts and the precepts are still there. So gratitude for what you're doing with Melanated Immortals. Absolutely. So I know everybody's been enjoying it, and I hope you all have been taking notes. And we possibly, if the brother is so kind to do so, we can return and do a part 2 on this, because I know you dropped some serious jewels. And before we conclude, is there anything you would like to share with the people? Now, if you want to go 3 more hours, I got time, but I know you're you're a busy man. So let me say,
absolutely. Well, I tell you, first and foremost, before I say any final words, I definitely want to give thanks to our ancestors, this amazing abundant energy we call cosmos, source energy, whatever we call it. We wouldn't be here without it, and the ancestors that's paved the way. I also want to give thanks to the master teachers at MIMEC, Baba Wanik, Kimi Tahuti Shabazz, High Priestess Ma'at and Makaru Amen, and Dr. Cindy Cork. We're looking at expanding that team here over the next 2 to 3 years. It should be great expansion, and in anticipation of the infrastructure of this MIMEC School of Evolution, but more importantly, the number of people who are seeking this knowledge on this level. So I definitely want to give thanks to all of the people from MIMEC that are in attendance or that get a chance to hear this, and all of you who are not part of MIMEC and really a part of your following, Brother Shem. I mean, I got the utmost respect for you, and just to have me on, and those IG lives, man, brother, I felt like we were in the same place doing it on such a level, and I have a great deal of admiration for you. I really do. How humble you are, how disciplined you are, and just how knowledgeable you are. And so it's a great example for me and others. And so it's been an honor to be on here today. Final words that I would say is make evolution your number one priority. That's what I would say. Once you do that, and why? Let's talk about why, because the people who know how will always work for the people who know why. Why is driven by purpose. Purpose is the most powerful force in the universe, because without purpose, the universe wouldn't even be operating. The purpose of the universe is to evolve and to realize itself in its different aspects. That's a purpose. That's a perspective. So imagine if you said, you know what, I ain't going to take this on like this. I'm going to evolve my consciousness. I'm going to learn some new concepts. When was the last time you did something for the first time? That shows growth. So definitely, I would say to make evolution your number one priority. And we have to learn. You may not be able to do this now, but maybe the next time we can talk about the 5 virtues that kind of help me. This is how I help find where people are. Remembrance, discipline, exertion, patience, and compassion. Because when you go into this knowledge and you have been able to allow the evolution of your consciousness to allow you to see something far greater than other people can see, then you help them, knowing that they don't think you need that they need you helping them. You love them, knowing that they may not even love you. You may be making things difficult. You may be making them think a little different. And it's not comfortable. It's not comfortable being artificial. It's not comfortable evolving. So if I'm going to be uncomfortable anyway, I just said, well, why not just be uncomfortable and evolve so I can take command over what it is that I do? So I would say that we got a number of things going on in our Brother Shem. This is, as we follow the 13 moon calendar, we're in the first moon. We start this process on July 26th. So we're in the first moon, the magnetic moon of purpose. So everything we're talking about, we're in our transformational series, and we're talking about transformation through purpose. That purpose has the power of synchronicity and nature working on its behold without our conscious behavior. That baby that's in the mother's womb is growing, whether we are doing certain things or not. It's feeding all the mother. As long as the food is coming through the mother, it's going to grow. It comes with it. It's finances and everything. You see that everybody caters to the baby when the baby is born, right? You have a baby shower and people bring gifts and make sure the baby has everything that it needs. That's because its purpose is causing people to do that. It's not because it's a cute baby. It is a cute baby, but there's something greater and everybody knows it. So we're working on this transformational series around purpose. And anybody that's interested, we're actually going to be starting a 5-day challenge tomorrow. 5-day challenge. We're going to have a call tonight that's going to be very powerful. If you're interested in any of this stuff, let me know. because we're going to focus for 5 days. And I tell you, we've been able to do some focuses for 5 days and 10 days and get things done we couldn't get done in a year, because we're so distracted and so divided in terms of how we're operating. And things just linger on, right? We just got to knock it out, you know. So those are the type of things that we're doing. You can email me at Blue Storm. Let me put that in the chat, maybe. Blue Storm at melanatedimmortals.com. And also, you can follow me on IG at Neb, lowercase Neb, NEB _ Taharka. And also, we do a lot of stuff on Clubhouse as well. So very, very, very excited about this. And yes, Brother Shem, I can't turn you down. It's pretty much not much you can ask me for it. If I can do it, I'm gonna do it, because I just got the deepest respect and regards for you and everything that you're doing. And I can't wait for the next time. I'm looking forward to it.
Gratitude. Likewise, brother. Deepest respect for you. It's a pleasure always building with you. And I know everybody appreciate it as well. So with that, thank everybody in the audience for participating. And until next time, peace. Peace and love.
Peace.